Hey everyone, today's video is a speed build I did in 48 hours of this Acorn Witch Nightlight. If you enjoy the video, I ask that you like and subscribe, and thank you in advance. Let's jump right in. So here's the initial idea I had, and fair warning, I may be an artist, but I am definitely not a painter. Anywho, the idea is to make an acorn witch riding a broom with a lantern lighting their way through some scenery. In order to make this, I'm gonna need some materials. Let's go foraging. As I collect materials here, I wanted to give the biggest of shoutouts to the two artists who inspired me to create this build. The first is, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, Stocafiso Design. They make small dynamic pieces of art that I find both ingenious and inspiring. The second being David M. Bird and his Beacorn creations. He photographs his characters interacting with animals in nature, and it's just the cutest thing ever. I'll link to both of their channels in the description. Make sure to go and give them some love, because they definitely deserve it. It is important to pre-process your materials. So what I'm gonna do is take this down to, 200. Get that going, then I'm gonna pop these in the oven. That way it kills any bacteria or anything living in them. And I'm just gonna keep that going for about 2 hours. And there we go. Then they'll come out clean and ready to use. Ignore the dishes. Do not pay attention to the dirty pants. Now that we have our goodies out of the oven, we can create our little character. This just involves some trial and error to get something that feels correct. And look at them, already taking shape. So you may be wondering, why a 2-day speed build? Sometimes you get an idea in your head of something you've never tried before. In this case, I've never created an automata that moved. And these ideas that get stuck in your head can a lot of the time be very intimidating. Although in practice, sure, they can be a little simple mechanism, but because you've never executed on it before, it can really just weigh you down in this state of feeling overwhelmed by the idea of doing it. So by forcing myself to do a 48-hour speed build, I have no choice but to just crank on and do it and get it done, regardless of whether it's good or bad or fantastic or ugly. It's just something to do and to try out a new idea. And that's really what this build was all about. It was about me trying a new idea because I've been really wanting to get into this idea of automaton and moving pieces of art. And so by forcing myself to do this, I actually got my first moving piece of art done. And I'm proud of it. I'm happy that I did it. And honestly, I need to do more of these 48-hour challenges because they're very helpful to actually get new ideas down in a, let's call it a 3D sketch, such as this. Now that we have our character finished, I add some stain to the wooden dowel for the legs, just so everything is a more uniform color. After that, we can move on to making the lantern that will hang at the front of the broomstick. To make that, I used toothpicks and random components I had laying around to make this sort of pyramid shape that will have an LED embedded in it, and that LED wiring will kind of sneak its way underneath the broomstick and through the base once I finish with it. Once I've added some paint to the lantern and some weathering to the rest of the Witch Wizard character, you can see now that I am creating the rotating mechanism that will sit in the base that will allow this acorn character to move. So the way this mechanism works is that the two wires that hold up the Acorn character are attached to two dowels slightly offset from one another on a rotating mechanism. And the offset is what allows the front to go up and down sooner than the back wire, and that gives us this wave-like flying motion to the Acorn character itself. Now that the Acorn Witch is done, we can focus on the base of the automaton. We're really picking up speed now because I was running out of time, so the remainder of these clips will be top-down time lapses, as those are the easiest to film. I start here with mixing up some plaster and spreading on a thick layer. Once it dries, I can attach some small trees I made off camera using pieces of pine cones into the plaster and give it all an initial layer of paint to start looking like an actual landscape. Now it's all about the details that bring the scene to life. I apply a layer of fine dirt followed by sprinkling on some faux grass. I then proceed to affix branches, bushes, rocks, and flowers, all which add to the realism of peace. I lock it all in place with some watered down white glue and leave it to dry. Here we are, the home stretch. The final step to finish this out is to spend some time soldering in the battery pack and the lamp of the Acorn Wizard to the wires I left protruding from the top of the automaton. Lastly, I painted the exposed wires black to help hide them a bit, and with that, let's take a look at the final piece. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this. I'll see you next time.